Hey everyone, Dr. Butler here. I'm here with Tron Stamper. He works with the Atlanta Falcons, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and the Atlanta United. He's going to tell us a little bit about himself and where he works, his job title, all of that. So nice to have you with us today, Tron.
Thank you for having me. Like Milani said, I'm Tron Stamper, manager of major events here at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That includes Atlanta United and the Atlanta Falcons and the PJ Tour Superstore underneath the umbrella of AMB Sports and Entertainment.
Very nice. Thank you so much. So I'm going to go through some questions with you all that we created here at Kennesaw. And I just want you to tell me a little bit about yourself, about your journey and how you came to be in the position that you are in today, from college until now.
I am local. I graduated from the University of West Georgia back in 2008, so I'm a little bit older than all of you. I've been working with the Falcons since 2008. I graduated just before or I took the job just before my graduation in 2008. And I've been the event marketing coordinator for the team. I managed all of our outdoor activation on game day and any event that was grassroots or marketing related for the team. And then I became event manager where I managed all of our game entertainment inside the Georgia Dome. And here I am now. So it's been a nice 13 to 14-year run.
Wow, that's really cool. Just hearing from, going from the Georgia Dome to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So, what has that been like? Just that process from being in the same, area, but different facilities.
It's very different. I'm in the stadium right now. I'm sitting at our restaurant in the stadium because we have an event going on, but it's very different. Um, the We own and we operate the stadium in the Georgia Dome. We were a tenant, so you wouldn't have this type of time to be in the stadium. We didn't work in the stadium directly. We worked at the team facility in Flowery Branch, about an hour north of here. And so being here is this feels like more of a home as opposed to the Georgia Dome, where you were there on the weekends for your games and then you were away. So you kind of live in this space as opposed to being a guest.
Yeah, well, thanks for telling us about that. So, how have your past responsibilities working directly with an NFL team helped you to adjust in your current role as a facility manager at Mercedes Benz Stadium?
That's a great question. One thing you learn if you start with a pro team, you learn the expectations of the team. Usually that starts with your ownership and funnels down from there. But you learn the expectations of the league. You learn that by every single event that you have that's game day or non-game day, like training camp. And then once you get into a facility, you'll work with multiple teams. So I work with every visiting team that comes to our building. And a big thing we do is just the hospitality and understanding what a team needs to execute a game. The same thing with our broadcast partners. You have to learn kind of what the expectation is there. They're there to do a job. It's a finite amount of time that a team is in your building, so you want to mitigate any issues as much as possible. You reflect your ownership group. So I always tell our staff when we deal with anyone or any client that comes in this building, you are representing Arthur Blank. So don't say anything or do anything that he would, because if you do, it somehow will get back to him on a different level. So you have to be really smart and work on a level that may be higher than you. So you just have to prepare yourself mentally and professionally.
Great advice, great tips. So, just as far as, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, I hear so much about it. I've had the opportunity to attend some games, whether it's a Falcons game or an Atlanta United. I am an Atlanta sports fan, right? I wore my gear today. But can you tell us about some of the unique features of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium?
Yeah, we like to categorize this place as a stadium that operates like an arena. Having two teams here is definitely catching on around the league. You have a couple other stadiums that have two teams, but obviously having United and Falcons, we're able to transition the stadium into a soccer-specific facility and then back into a traditional NFL facility. Obviously, we have a roof and our Halo, which was the largest video board in a stadium, I think in the world. And then SoFi Stadium is now open and they have the same Oculus design. But that's one of the big features. The 8 roof pedals on top of the stadium are obviously a huge feature. We prefer to have the roof open for every Falcons game if we can. And then United games, we like to open it here and there as well. It really depends on the weather and how the climate affects everything inside the stadium, from fan experience to competition on the field to just guests and our broadcasts as well. We've learned a lot throughout the years being open on what makes the stadium really unique, and then we try to innovate all the time. That's one of our core values, is innovate continuously. So we built a Falcon statue out front of our building, and then we also have a soccer ball statue on the north side of our stadium, and then we updated a lot of the graphics on the interior of the stadium at one of our gates to reflect the United MLS Championship, and then a lot of the success that the Falcons have had throughout the years as well.
Very cool. I love that Falcon statue. It's such a great place to meet friends. Everybody knows where it is. I just had a quick question just to add on to that. You all have some great food and beverages and just service. So just point of sales. Can you tell the students a little bit about your point of sales in the stadium and how it's so unique?
Yeah, so if you, I don't know how much everybody knows about Arthur Blank, but he came from New York, and he likes to tell the story of when he was young. It was difficult to go to a professional sport financially for a whole family. So we came up with the model here that the concession and hospitality space and venues similar to this. We lowered the pricing so that a family of four could come to a game for less than $30. So you could spend $7 a meal on a family of four. So a lot of our menu items are $1 per se. Some of them are $2. You can get bottomless sodas for $2, which in this space is very unheard of. Most events you go to and you're spending $6 or $7 a drink, and they're definitely not refillable. So we made some ground in that space, and then we took it another step, and we became a cashless venue a couple of years ago. So no cash accepted anywhere in our building. With cash, we have these cash card machines. There's no charge to the actual client. It literally just takes your cash, gives you a Visa card that you can use in the stadium or wherever you want to use it when you leave here. But the main reason is for fan experience. You want people to leave and say that they had a good time and that they enjoyed themselves while they were here.
And I've always had a good time at the stadium. So just FYI, y'all are doing a great job. So you seem like you really love what you do. So can you tell us what you enjoy most about your current job?
What I enjoy most, so the entire time I've been here, it's been a transition every year. Something has changed. There were challenges from day one. The first challenge is just opening a multi-billion-dollar facility, and teaching everybody how this place operates. And then we've hosted 4 bid events since we've opened. Ish. We hosted the college football playoff in 2018, the MLS All-Star game 2019, and then obviously the Super Bowl 53, and then we were working towards the Final Four last year. So now we're in a space that opens up more creativity. We were so busy those first 4 years, and now it's that reset period where you really get to think outside the box, think of how you use a building in a way that it hadn't been used up until now. So right now it's a lot of strategic thinking, a lot of events that we've never done before that are on the table right now that we're negotiating. So just the ability to be creative and to have time to be creative is really fun right now.
Very cool, very cool. So with that being said, what is the toughest part of your current job?
Toughest part, I think the toughest part, just like anything, the relationships. You have to learn, build relationships inside and outside your building. You have to learn people. You have to learn how how to communicate effectively, to get the most talent out of everyone, and to make sure everybody succeeds. You love to have the family feeling, feeling like everybody's on the same page, everybody's going in the same direction, but you have to really build and mold relationships in order to make that happen. So I think that's a difficult part of the job that never ends. There's some things you can just stop doing, and close the book on, but the building of relationships and maintaining relationships, with a positive attitude is something that is a challenge.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I definitely agree with you. So I'm glad that you get to use your creativity in the next coming years, and relationship building. Yes, very important. So I'm sure the students appreciate that. So what do you enjoy most about working for the AMB group?
I enjoy most. It's not a typical job. I'm in here today. We're managing vaccinations, or a vaccination site. We're the lead vaccination site in Georgia. So being able to just work with random projects like this, if I listed 5 projects that I'm working on right now, a lot of them have nothing to do with each other. And this group would probably be shocked that I was involved in them, but the ability to do things that you never thought you would be able to do, really kind of makes it fun and unpredictable at the same time, and it's hard to get bored in this environment.
Oh yeah, well, thanks for sharing that with us. So, you kind of, talked about what's going on right now with all the vaccinations for COVID-19, right? The COVID-19 vaccinations, and I think our students would love to know a little bit more about the impact of COVID-19 on your current roles and responsibilities.
So I guess you go back to last year, obviously, and just 2008, 2020, in June, July, we really start ramping up on NFL planning for the season, and MLS planning as well. And so we basically transitioned our entire building on how we operate. We have multiple locker rooms throughout the building, and we actually moved our entire visiting team operations for MLS and NFL. We moved them to a totally different locker room. Atlanta United moved to a different locker room, which changed all operations for everybody. So everybody in our building, from security to our guest services, fan experience, everyone had to operate in a way that we never had. And so to build a building a certain way, and then to be told 3 years later, yeah, scratch all those plans and rethink your entire operation. And the NFL obviously has to approve it. The MLS has to approve it. So being able to change everything and transition it, you really see the effect on everything. You try to create bubbles throughout the stadium to keep the players safe, but also you have to keep the fans safe if you are able to invite them back into the building. So now every time I come into the stadium, there's a temperature check. There's a questionnaire that you have to fill out. So there's way more steps just getting inside the stadium than before. And then every client, any guest that comes in the building, they have to follow the same process that I do. Not to mention during the season, we had to do COVID tests every week. So going through that process is something that it's nervous. I don't know if anybody's had one, but when you take a COVID test, just sitting there waiting on the results is the most nerve-wracking thing ever. But then you get the green light and you're good for the weekend. It's a good feeling, but you just have to really think about things you never thought about before in your career.
Well, thanks for keeping us safe, the fans, the staff, everybody. We appreciate that. And I think that it's going to help when more and more fans get to go into the stadium, knowing that, that's your top priority. So, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, it recently turned into a voting precinct. Can you tell us a little bit more about that experience? And then, obviously you're there for a non-sporting event, and just some of the non-sporting event things that you all do in the stadium.
So we'll start with voting. First off, State Farm Arena did a fantastic job with it. They created the model. I actually voted there, and it was just a seamless process. So we were able to partner with State Farm Arena for the runoff elections, and so we actually went over there to do training. I spent pretty much it was like a 4 or 5 hour training session, just learning the technology that they use and learning what the process is to be a voting site. And then we had the voting for 2 weeks over here. So we got through our last Falcons game, and then we installed the full voting setup, and then we were able to volunteer. So I volunteered the first 2 days here. Obviously, it was a very intense process. You had poll watchers. You also had just the Fulton County government just being here and overseeing the whole process. So you're working with a situation where we're used to, just having a sporting event here, and you're dealing with the NFL or MLS and broadcast partners, to where you're dealing with, the actual government. So there's a different level of serious um, and professionalism that it takes, and obviously communication all the while during the pandemic. But we made it fun. We made it an easy experience. We made it where anyone felt like they were accepted here, no matter who you were elected, who you were choosing. So that was a process. It was something new for us. It was quick. It was a 2 week thing, but long hours, long days. But we got through it, and it was a good experience. Like I said, um, then we actually rolled into the vaccinations right when the year flipped to 2021. So we've been set up. We're here Monday through Saturday right now. And that's for the foreseeable future. But it's cool to be able to be a site like this. We have our boards on right now, so I keep looking up. It's our Halo board, has graphics on it, just say vaccination site. So there's a lot to look at around here, but it's anyone's able to come in right now. I think it's 65 and older. We have law enforcement here. We have fire and medical here. So everyone is going through the process, getting their vaccines, and it's truly a team effort to do this every single day, and try to rest on Sunday.
Thanks for taking care of the community. I know they really appreciate that. So my next question for you, I'm going to go back to sports real quick. So I know that we did not have, unfortunately, the men's Final Four take place here in Atlanta in 2020, but you did have a role in the planning process. Can you tell us a little bit about the process of planning and hosting huge sporting events like the College Football Playoff National Championship and the Super Bowl? And, you did mention it. You had 3 huge events back to back. So can you just tell us just a little bit about that process and what that entails?
Yeah, I'm still not over the Final Four yet. So,
I know.
Give me some time to finish grieving that. So when you have these bid events, the city and the state gets involved with the actual bid. So when you get in this business, you'll hear bid a lot. So you bid on these mega events that'll come in and kind of take over the city. So we've pretty much had the big four, which are Super Bowl, college football playoff, um, Final Four, and All Stars. So with those events, it takes a year or more of planning. So for the Super Bowl specifically, we started our meetings for that event. I want to say, like I said, a year in advance. Um, we worked with CBS for that Super Bowl, so they started coming in. A lot of those contacts I already had from managing Falcons games. So they come in. We're looking at where are you putting cameras. They put cameras in places that you traditionally wouldn't for a normal game, which means there's more fiber, which is all of the cords that are run through the building to support a live broadcasted show. So you start that process. You start with the basics a year out, saying, okay, which locker rooms are we using? Who's going in those locker rooms? Which office spaces do you need? Which hospitality spaces do you need? But you do all that, like I said, a year in advance, and you're basically meeting monthly. So typically you'll have an event staff come in, plus your promoter. They'll come in once a month for meetings and site visits and walkthroughs. All your vendors will come while they're going through the RFP process, just really understanding what all the costs could be, and narrowing down those decisions. You do that literally every single month. You have a group coming in just to literally look at the building and view different spaces. And then usually once you get about 3 or 4 months out, a lot of the decisions begin to be solidified. Your meetings ramp up to, twice a month, you'll have a group coming in to visit with you. We did lighting tests, we did pyro tests, we shot fireworks off the roof one night just to see how it would look, and to test out the product. I sat outside the stadium while guys were on the roof, shooting products. So things like that, you literally test out throughout the whole course of a year. So then when you get to 2 weeks to a week out from the event, you do something like 100-minute meeting where you literally will go through every minute of the day of the event to make sure everybody's on the same page. We did the same process with the Final Four. The big difference there is you're obviously transitioning your building from a traditional football soccer venue to a basketball facility or an arena. So we did certain cutouts in our walls to accommodate bringing the crowd from our stands down to the court. So there's a lot of is already happening in construction work that we were walking into last year that makes the need for planning out a year in advance.
Okay, wow. You have been up to a lot. So, it sounds like it's a very busy job being a facility manager and just managing all the different events, but it sounds like you're very hands-on and detail-oriented. And I know that, the city of Atlanta really enjoyed the CFP and the Super Bowl, and hopefully we can get the Final Four back here soon enough. That would be lovely. So I have a few more questions for you. Athletes and activism was a big part of 2020. Can you tell us a little bit about what your organization is doing to address issues related to diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Yeah, actually. So the Falcons and United, they have quite a bit of programming right now. The Falcons have players that are literally leading the charge on social justice reform and leading the charge on different programming that they've been doing for years. So they already had kind of a set standard for how they operate with the Falcons, and it's only ramped up in the last year. United is definitely getting more involved in that. They do a ton downtown on just inclusiveness and diversity anyway, and they're branching out from the city right now. So the teams themselves have already done a great job. They have great representation from the leadership level down to the players. And then on the stadium side, it's been more of a joint approach. We actually created a diversity and inclusion council within our organization. So they're leading the charge on all the companies. They're kind of the umbrella to get us all marching in the same direction, to look at hiring practices, to look at how look at our leadership, look at ideas, look at way that we spend funds. What are we giving to? Arthur also has a foundation that manages all of our businesses as well. So it's a big collaborative effort on how we can all have a voice in things that are done and how it's done, and making sure everybody feels a part of what we do. Obviously, if you watch a Falcons game or a United game, there's a lot of branding on the field. So from the NFL standpoint, they added stencils on the field. End racism was at the end of was behind our end zones this year. And then they had specific games that were tied to different causes. We have our My Cause, My Cleats program in the NFL. That's one game where the players can wear any cleats they want, and the proceeds that are generated for each cause will go back to that cause. So the efforts are endless, and anything that anybody wants to be a part of, it's proud to know that there are opportunities, and it's literally up to you which you want to join and how you want to help.
I'm glad to know that they're doing so much for diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's very big deal, and it's something that more teams, more leagues, everybody needs to be doing and focused on. So thank you so much for sharing what you all are doing here in Atlanta. So my next question to you, what advice do you have for current students who would want to pursue a career path, the one that you have right now?
I would say, first off, make sure in college, take a finance class, just basic finance, understand, P&Ls, understand what a lot of the objectives are financially going into a business such as this. Also going into, if you're looking venue specifically, understand the difference between a management company and a private ownership. Understand those two. We are a private ownership group, obviously with the AMBSE, but there's also stadiums that are run by a private management company that is not a part of the actual, team per se. So if you go to New Orleans, they are managed by a management company. The stadium is, and they're owned by the New Orleans Saints. So there's differences in who you work for that could change your role in a lot of ways. Many people want to start with a venue and go straight to a team. I would say know the difference. When you work for a team, you have seasons. You have certain, if you're in season for the Falcons, you may be working from your intense period is August to February, and then your role is going to change while you're in the off season. If you're in a stadium, you're working year round. Your season ends, then you roll into dirt shows like Monster Jam, Monster Cross. You may go into United season starts in March, so you're already starting back up. So you literally need to know kind of what you're getting yourself into and what the specific goal would be while you're in there. For me, I left the team side looking for experience, more contacts. I already worked for the Falcons for 8 years, and we hosted 2 NFC championships, went to the Super Bowl, hosted countless events. We opened a new stadium, and obviously kicked off a soccer team. So by then I was ready for a new challenge. So I would definitely put some challenges out ahead of myself and be prepared to learn a lot. And then last thing, check your attitude.
Check your attitude. That's a good one. That's a good one. Just hearing you just list off everything you've been up to these past few years, I feel like you've lived so many different sports lifetimes, right? Opening up a new facility, working for a team, bringing a team, all of that. So cool to, hear your perspective. And again, thank you so much for sharing with us. So I have 2 more questions for you before we wrap up. What should sport management professors like myself be teaching students so that we can better equip and prepare them to have a position like the one that you have right now?
Excel.
Okay, spreadsheets. That's great. I love that.
Excel, PowerPoint, Word. Those are still great resources. Public speaking is a major one that I didn't know I was going to have to speak so much in my role. But when we broke ground on our stadium, we had a meeting prior to the event with all of our talent. Well, our talent for that event was Roger Goodell, who's the commissioner of the NFL, Dan Garber, who's the commissioner of the MLS, our owner of the blank, our mayor at the time, Kasim Reed, our CEO, Rich McKay, Frank Poe, who's the executive director of the Georgia Congress Center. So I was in a small space with all of these leaders, and I'm briefing them on the event. So I had to learn, how do you talk to these executives? What do they need? It's their attention span is probably going to be a little smaller. So preparation to speak with them, just like speaking to you guys, the preparation is key. I always tell people, put down a couple bullet points of high level things you want to discuss, and then let your mind kind of go from there. But the preparation to speak publicly, quickly, decisively, and obviously to know what you're talking about will take you very far. But preparation for speaking is extremely important.
I will put that on my list of things to do and include that in future assignments. So I really appreciate it. So my last question for you, do you have anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up for the day?
I don't. I definitely say get down to Mercedes-Benz Stadium when we open up again and get involved. Also get involved at Kennesaw State. One thing I always tell people, or people coming out of college, if you're not involved with the athletic department at your college, then it's going to be very difficult for you to get involved on a professional level. The best experience and the most cost-effective experience you can have is right there at your own venue. I'd say learn the ins and out of Fifth Third Bank Stadium. Obviously, we have a lot of events there. I've been there, but I would learn the ins and outs of that stadium, learn how they operate, learn how your arena operates, learn how your baseball, softball facilities operate. Attend volleyball games, help with those. I worked every single sport that we had at West Georgia, and I learned a lot from it. And I tell people, no matter how small the event, I tell people around here, make it your Super Bowl. I managed the Super Bowl here, but I tell anybody who didn't manage it, make that event just as great as the Super Bowl. Put your own touch on it, make it feel important so other people will take it just as serious as you do. And that'll take you far.
Awesome. I love that. No matter how small the event, make it your Super Bowl. That's going to have to be a motto I put up in the facilities class, definitely. So thank you so much. I know you're a very, very busy man, so we really appreciate you taking the time out to speak with us today, and we learned a lot. So thanks again.
All right, thank you so much. Have a good day, guys.
You too. Take care.